Well, thank you so much. Well, once again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so thrilled to see all of you here, especially joining us again in CVC Forum. It's just wonderful to see all of you here after listening to health tech, now to construction. Actually, what's the relationship besides Cyberport, really? On my other hand, actually, on behalf of Cyberport, well, I'd like to thank you all. Let's put the big picture around us, first of all. Very lately, we listened to our chief executive's policy address. Daunting figures. He announcing that we're going to build 158 units in this coming 5 years. Not to mention, we should build another 30,000 units. Those are lightweight units, kind of like more simplified version of a housing, especially for those actually in need, those living in subdivided units, really in awful conditions. Will that be able to help us? That is something that is so important to all of us. So with that, to bear that in mind, never mind our last government been heavily promoting Industrial 4.0 as well as Construction 2.0. Now with that, really is gauging our building industry going forward to bring in sort of innovation and technology into our ecosystem. But what have we done? By not only promoting our last government, Smart City Initiative. So we have Smart City Blueprint 1, 2, now emerging to 3, which is more citizen-driven. Are we really citizen-driven? Those are the technology that is help us to become smarter. But are we really being smarter? Very much like to hope to see that as being, on my other hat, I'm the board director of Cyberport, not to mention we're building Phase 5. That Phase 5 is very important for us. Not only that will strengthen our Cyberport's positioning, but also Hong Kong. As you all know here in Hong Kong, we have two very important hubs, which is one is Cyberport, and the other one is Science Park. Now, with the strategic positioning, in here we work very closely with the academia, obviously. In a location-wise, we work very closely with Hong Kong U, whereas in Science Park, we work very closely with Chinese University, Hong Kong UST. That is supporting our positioning in terms of what? Being an innovation hub. So building Phase 5, are we taking us there? As all of you know here in Cyberport, we are rather good in fintech. We are rather good in smart living. We're rather good in esports. And besides that, we're heavily promoting like AI and big data analysis, which is something that we're gunning for. Never mind space economy here. So all this, bearing in mind, we have to have a look into budget as well, financial support. As you all know, our last financial secretary, which is still our current financial secretary, given us around sort of like 5 billion to build Phase 5. So how can we handle that? Those are the questions that one should ask ourselves. And how can we build faster, with a better quality, reliability, and most of all, safety? I think safety is the one big factor we're all thinking every day, especially in our industry. So bear that in mind. So let's have a discussion, hopefully a meaningful one. Now, may I throw the first question to my dear friend here, Simon. As running a very substantial, being a substantial contractor here in Hong Kong, in that regard, first of all, the question is, do you think we can achieve that 158,000 units here in Hong Kong, as well as what solutions or sort of the latest technology development that your company's been using? We very much like to hear that. Please, Simon.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I think in the latest policy address, it's addressing to the top priority question of Hong Kong that we are facing is housing problem. So the question is how we can get more land and how we can build faster. So the question for how can we build faster? So the policy address has driving us to two directions. One is for prefabrication. The other is for digitalization. So let me give you a little bit background about prefabrication. So the idea is prefabrication is to shift most of the construction sites work from the construction sites which are, for example, the timbering, the concreting, those kind of work, those are dirty, those are dangerous, and those need a lot of labor. So try to minimize this work and shift this work towards an off-site factory, maybe in China. So So this kind of the prefabrication is proven technology that we can increase our productivity and increase our quality, and also to reduce the on-site work. So we just simply prefabricate a bedroom, prefabricate a kitchen, or prefabricate a balcony in a factory, and then simply shift to the on-site and simply install that. So a real practical example is at the beginning of this year, when Hong Kong has a pandemic situation, our company has a mission to build the infection isolation center, the 方艙醫院. So as you may all know, so we build the 方艙醫院 is a temporary structure that we can build in as fast as 7 days. And we also have another 2 projects, for one in Penny Bay and one in the Kai Tak Cuisine. So these are permanent structure. For the permanent structure, we also managed to use prefabrication, or what we call MIC, in 4 months to complete a permanent structure. So these are the proven example that our company can successfully use the prefabrication technology to speed up our construction process. So I think in the company policy address, they are giving incentive towards this technology. Okay, the second direction is about digitalization of our construction sites. So one of the very interesting initiative in the policy address is about the statutory submission of the. So traditionally, engineer and architect, they simply use drawings, 2D drawings, for all the construction works, and also for getting the building department approval. So this is a very tedious and very lengthy process, and when we go to the building department officer, they have a piles of queuing up for waiting for approval. So the idea is, so we want to digitize all these drawings to put it in a building information model, which is a 3D, information-rich 3D model. So the lands department and the building department is setting up a platform so that in the future, the architect can simply upload a digital 3D building information model, so that the platform can also automatically to check whether it complies with building regulations. So I think the government is very actively doing this, and also the industry is looking forward to it, and we also have some proof of concept of this. So I think all the industry are moving towards these two directions: prefabrication and digitalization. Yeah.
That's great, Simon. It's so true, though. You know, your company your reputation is so high in terms of speed, safety, and building on time, on budget is something that we can discuss further. But that is from a contractor's perspective. Now let's move on to our ecosystem, whereby we need consultant. We also need service provider. For instance, BIM, Building Information Modeling, the provider can help contractors, or our consultant. Can they really help us within our industry? We don't know. Let's listen to Benny. Benny, please share your thoughts and your development with us, please.
Right. So thank you for having me first. As Simon mentioned, he's built the 方艙醫院. It's all MICs, right? So MIC is still remaining one of the hot topics within our construction industry, right? Same as the increasing speed, increasing efficiency, and increasing quantity. Yeah? However, quality of all these MIC are very important as well. Majority of the MIC are fabricated from our mainland China and then transport into Hong Kong for the installations. How efficient and how we monitor the whole progress for every single MIC produced from their factories all the ways to Hong Kong, and everything have to meet our laws and building regulations in Hong Kong is important. So so nowadays we have a BIM-enabled multifunctional digital platform with blockchain technology to monitor this kind of workflow from right at the beginning, where they start concreting all the way to installation in Hong Kong. Same as normal precast elements, we have what we call RFID embedded into all the MIC. That become the ID card of every single MIC. From right it's born until it installed, the record is from there, okay? In the factory-wise, the platform can monitor by monitoring when they start concreting, who inspect after the concreting, reinforcement, internal, external finishings, all the way to Hong Kong. There's a very, very comprehensive inspection. The government body or the client body have to be done before they actually ship to Hong Kong. All this traditionally are by paperwork, right? So our platform nowadays digitalize all this inspection form. So all the inspector are using their handheld, mobile, or tablet, going through every single checkpoint and using their unique password or even fingerprint to approve the progress. And also where the botching come from. There's so many checkpoints. We cannot botching all of them. It will become very clumsy. So we work with the client to check which checkpoint and inspection point is the most critical for them, and so that if anything's went wrong in n years' time, they can come back and chase back who approved the inspections, where did it go wrong. So that's the record tracing for that. Okay, and also one of the checkpoints is critical is when it get onto the trailer. Onto the trailer, from that point of view, it's shipped to Hong Kong. It transported in Hong Kong. We even have the what we call the fleet logistic management modules to monitor the whole progress for that MIC with the driver all the way from China, which route it go through it come back into Hong Kong to the site. It monitor the route and also monitor the health of the driver within this driving cabinet. See if the condition is okay, anything that any PM 2.5 level higher than what it should be, or anything that make him want to fall asleep, etc. We even try to make sure that the MIC are in a steady space into Hong Kong, not going for some very high speed bump, because there's lots of MIC coming in Hong Kong every single day. We cannot keep track to all this MIC by eye inspections. If we have this data, we can monitor how many MIC that going through this critical point, and then we can check it on site and make sure before the installation there's no cracking, etc. And afterwards, of course, the final bit will be the installations. We even have something interesting, that BRM that we used to. Every single project now, they're over $30 million have to have the BRM for the project. So why not waste it, the BRM? We make use of the BRM, okay? We make a color-coded system so that clients and inspector, they can look into the tablet, and then depends on the model color, and that model color will represent the status of every single MIC. Okay.
That's great, Benny. So we kind of like from MIC, speed, temporary, structural, actually permanent, to RFID chip, to blockchain technology, checking, transportation, so on and so forth. That's amazing. Before we move on to financing, banking sort of perspective here, let's talk about our startup, which is one of our most outstanding startup in terms of the building industry here. Arthur, would you like to share with us your latest development, please?
Thank you. Hello. Hello. No. Hello. Yes. Thanks very much. My name is Arthur. Very glad to be Cyberport community. I love Cyberport. A lot of fundraising, helping, strategizing, networking, all the things you want. Actually, I got my last round of investment in this room. talking to a lot of real estate strategic investors. So what Negawat is quite simple. Two things, actually one thing. Sustainability for real estate properties. Okay, just how do you solve that sustainability? Because I think we talked about constructions, we talked about smart city. Everything that we do is, at the end of the day, what is the sustainability of our future? Okay, so it is such a big topic, to be honest, and we cannot solve all. So what Negawat focuses a lot is about greenhouse gases emission. You can talk about embodied carbon, operational carbon later on, but the sustainability is like greenhouse gases. Why? For Hong Kong, 67% of greenhouse gases comes from buildings, okay? And I would argue that greenhouse gases is probably the number one contributor to climate change. And I think climate change is probably the biggest problem that human nature will ever face in the next probably 100 years if we stay there alive. So what we do is Negawat would help to improve new buildings or old buildings, a sustainability measurement, okay, with carbon emissions. And why carbon or why greenhouse gases? Because I think as probably carbon emissions is the most mature or understandable metrics on the building performance other than rental income. We work with a lot of investment-grade properties. First thing they ask, okay, why should you buy a building? Because it gives you high rent, okay, or the location. But number three is the metrics is, what about the sustainability of the building? How about the performances, right? Everything you do, how you manage your client, how you manage your tenant, how you manage your equipment, how do you manage your embodied carbon, operational carbon, all that boils down to carbon emission intensity, okay? So if we don't have that information, it's hard to quantify. And for potential investors, also for potential tenants, and said, okay, they have their ESG requirement to rent or to buy or to find a more sustainable offices, places, whatever you need to do with real estate, right? So that's what we do. And they need to reach their own net zero target too, because right now I think the net zero target is probably that's why we're here. Okay, in efficiency and emission savings. And when you talk about target, then you need to have a lot of data, digital infrastructure, and then a lot about stakeholder engagement. Without the right data, without the right infrastructure, it's hard to collaborate. Otherwise, people, the building occupants, they will be working in silo. The landlord will be doing their own thing. The property management will be doing their own thing. The tenants will be doing their own thing. The contractor service side will be their own thing. We're not working collaboratively together, but we're working on the same building. It doesn't make sense. So that's Negawat. We actually built a digital infrastructure to apply to different stages of building life cycle, from building, from construction to maintenance to demolishing and refurbishment, right? And from that, we can understand, okay, what is the risk that the client are facing? From data that we're getting, how do I increase efficiency, okay? What does this emission means and how do I engage your tenant operation? So now we have about 150 investment-grade properties using our system, managing about 55 million square feet with a yearly consumption of about 340 million kilowatt hour, which is equivalent about like 200,000 tons of carbon emission. Sure. So that's what we do, is how to push sustainability in the built environment.
That's absolutely fantastic, Arthur. Really great. Well done for you. As we all know, our government already set up the target. We are aiming to be carbon neutral by 2050. And with the ESG in mind, and also the latest CE's policy address mentioned that we really want to put Hong Kong as a carbon trading market. Now comes to our banking sort of perspective. Arthur, your bank has been so supportive and so brilliant that to support our ecosystem in terms of businesses, as well as in particular, nice to construction industry here. Now with this policy address in mind, with this latest goal and target, how can you help? What can you do extra to help us?
Well, actually, I think, first of all, thank you. Thanks, Rosana, for having me. I think construction and banking industries are usually the most boring industries that we can talk about. But fortunately, when we talk about money, people will be more interested. So actually, Hong Kong is already doing very well in terms of green financing. For example, the government has a green bond program. I'm not sure whether everybody knows about that. Actually, the government has set a target that they will issue 200 billion Hong Kong dollars bond in the coming few years, so that to help the bond market development in Hong Kong, particularly focusing on green. And banks in Hong Kong are also doing their part in that too. For example, in Bank of East Asia, BEA, since the end of last year, we have already more than doubled the proportion of green finance in our corporate loan book. So, for example, last year end, we have like 5% of our loan book is in green financing. Right now, it's more than 10%, something like that. And then, all the banks are doing it, not just us. So I think Hong Kong is well positioned to help all these. And right now, actually, with the rise of technology, that kind of financing is made even easier. For example, with all the data and all the traceability thing, actually some companies are already coming up with ideas using blockchain to trace the energy consumption of a particular office or a particular building. Then with that kind of traceability or auditability kind of data, then bank can finance green loans, can provide green loans more directly. Because all the banks would have their own principles or guidelines about how to recognize something, whether something is green or not. Actually, there is some principles. For example, in Asia Pacific, we adopt the LMA green finance principles. Okay, LMA is Loan Market Association. It's an association to help all the financiers in Asia Pacific to set up some guidelines. And then we adopt that kind of principles. So auditability is very important. So I think without the policy address, of course, with government support, it will move even faster. But in Hong Kong, all the banks are moving forward that kind of that direction. And I'm actually very happy to see technology is now helping us. And in fact, we are already working with a new startup in that area. And hopefully in the coming weeks or months, then we can have something announceable.
That's really great. Thank you so much, Kevin, because we all know having development without financial support, forget it, it's not going to happen. So because of the time is an essence here, before we go into Q&A, maybe perhaps we give one important takeaway to our audience. Start with Simon.
I hope everyone can remember BIM, Building Information Modeling. So we digitize all the construction progress so that we can make infinite possibilities.
Benny, please.
I always have this slogan, be big, be green, be lean, be BIM.
Fantastic. Okay. Kevin.
Okay, I think being green is not just about for the earth, it's also about for your own company. So it's not an elective course in your journey. It's a mandatory subject for everybody.
Absolutely. Arthur.
Yeah. Making sustainable decisions is actually free. Okay? And in 20 years, 30 years, if your son and daughter ask you, hey, Dad and Mom, what did you do last 20, 30 years ago when the earth is dying? Okay? Oh, yeah, I'm busy making money for us. But sure, I have all the zeros in the bank, in the virtual bank, e-wallet 20 years later. Does not mean anything. So make sustainable and wise decisions today, because we only have the next 10 years to change our lives forever.
Absolutely. I very much like to thank our panelists here. Just to let you all know, within Hong Kong, 60% of carbon emissions is actually derived from buildings. So let's work towards this ecosystem and make Hong Kong a healthier, smarter place. Thank you very much.